Hello everyone. Today in the lecture series 16, we are going to discuss topics on resistance thermometer and how the resistance thermometer will be used and what the principle it will be working on. Then we will have a brief idea about the thermistor and its types. So at first, what is this mean by resistance thermometer? So here the change in the resistance when temperature is changed, using this principle we will be implementing this resistance thermometer bridge. Okay, so what is this? Here we need to consider three factors: the resistance factor, the thermometer means temperature factor, and the bridge. So in the previous videos where we discuss about the different type of bridges, so that the same concept will be implementing it here. So now what do you mean by this? How, why they are combined together, and how and what are the factors we'll be discussing, so we can get a maximum or a efficient resistance thermometer bridge. Okay, so as we told here that the resistance of the conductor changes with the temperature is changed. So this is the property used for measurement of the temperature. Here the resistance thermometer bridge uses the change in the electrical resistance of the conductor to determine the temperature. So that what it is, that the change in the electrical resistance caused by the change in the temperature, or the vice versa. So we'll have a reference chart. On that basis we can determine, so this much the resistance has been changed and this much the resistance has changed on due to change in the certain temperature. So we'll look into it. So what are the requirements of that conductor material to be used here? So first one, that it has to change in the resistance of the material per unit in the temperature. Change in the temperature must be large. Okay, so what is that? When a small 1 degree Celsius has been changed, 1 degree Celsius has been changed, for example 24 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees it has changed in temperature. So that time usually it is a room temperature, I am taking it as an example there. So what will happen? A certain change in the value of the resistance will change, and it should be little large, not as large as possible. It doesn't that at only 1 degree Celsius, only 0.1, 0.2, that doesn't matter. So there might be some kind of a noise in reading those things. So that all factors will be considered here. Now next, the resistance of the material must have a continuous and stable relationship with the temperature. What does this mean? So continuously it has to change. For example, it is changed from 80 degree, 100 degrees Celsius. It doesn't tell that it has to stop at the maximum boiling point or the freezing point. It doesn't that we have to stop that. It has to change continuously. If it go for the 100,000 degrees Celsius, 2000 degrees Celsius, we have to search the such kind of materials and we have to insert it in the resistance thermometer bridge, and that factor is called as this sensing element. So whatever the measures has to be, the measurement has been taken is done using this sensing element. So that much the efficient, and that much we have to be sure about the sensing element and what the operating range has to be determined, and the operating range has to be set. Okay, so it is depending on our application or for what it is to be designed. So different operations have different operating range there. Okay, so this is what the factor here. As I said, the main is the sensing element, and usually it determines, it should be the sensitivity and the operating temperature range. What do you mean by this sensitivity? As we discussed in the error parts, sensitivity is what? It has to sense the minute change in the temperature also. So that minute change in the temperature also changes the resistance there. So this factor has to be considered very much, and this has to be very much effective there. And the operating temperature range has to be very wide. Doesn't mean that it has to use it for 10 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Celsius, blah blah blah. No, it has to be very wide so that we can have it for many of the applications within using one certain temperature, resistance thermometer bridge. And here the sensing element may be of any material, but as I said, it has to be have the large resistance change with the change in the temperature. And whatever the material we are using it here, it has to be have a stable characteristic. Neither the resistance or neither the temperature coefficient has to go permanent change. When this permanent change occurs, when we use it for regularly for long terms, or for example it has used it for continuous purpose, or for example it is used for many of the years, so that efficiency has to be kept there. So issues, we have to select such kind of a material that it has to be stable, not it has to change its thing or characteristics. Whatever the characteristics there, it has to remain it for long term. So that time, for that time we need to go for proper maintenance of those things, maintenance of the sensing element and whatever the bridge we are connected to it. And also we have to consider the stability for the in order to maintain the calibration of the resistance thermometer. Resistance thermometer, why? The calibration, whatever the readings we have taken, it is not accurate or not calibrated, so that we can get the output might be used for any of the application might go wrong. So we can have an error or losses, or we don't have any determined values and all like that, it can happen. So sometimes the need for stability frequently limits the temperature range over which the sensing element may be used. Yeah, there might be some factors on these cases there. So as I said, depending on the application, so we may have a low temperature range, mid temperature range, or high temperature range. So that factor has to be considered. Another most important thing, it has to be a linear. Understood? It has to be linear there, not that it has to go just and change in any way direction. It has to be linear. So some input change, so that much has to be done. For 1 degree Celsius, it has to be like 10 kilo ohm. 2 degrees Celsius, it has to be 20 kilo. Almost it has to be the linear there. So that's the factors we need to consider it for the most of the purpose. Now we discuss the basic ideas, what the actually it has to be done, the resistance thermometer, what all the characteristics should be have, and what are the characteristics we need to consider when we are selecting the sensing elements. Now we'll look into the structures here. Here the sensing element, what are the characteristics we need to be determined, or we should be satisfy our designs there. So the sensing elements can be made up of nickel, copper, or platinum. Usually we go for nickel or copper because it's in the economic way. But when you go for the platinum, it will be little higher because it's a very rare element, and it's a one kind of a little costlier than even than the gold. So normally we use the nickel and copper, but platinum usually used in the different high temperature ranges where we require. Okay, that's not the case of the economic condition, where we go for the efficient way or the accurate one. So this is the sensing element which are covered by the lead support. Whatever these things is been supported by this lead, you can see it here. Okay, this is a protecting cover that will be in contact with the which are the of which object or which the material we have to go for sensing the heat. Now this is another sheath which will be outer covered. Usually they are made up of any of the conducting materials. Okay, and this is the mounting thread where it will be placed there, and another which are the heat sensed by this one is been given to the bridges there, of which it has to be determined. As we said, there is a primary transducer or a secondary transducer. So this total act as a primary transducer which will be connected to the secondary transducer there. So whenever the measured temperature is subjected to a rapid variation, the speed with which the resistive element responds to the changes in temperature is also important. So that's the factor what we need to go for the sensitive, very good sensitive materials there. The smaller a given sensitive element or sensing element, less heat is required to raise its temperature, though, so we can have it a faster response. And usually, as I said earlier, that a sensitive material like a which are using in the sensing element like a platinum, nickel, and copper. In that, why platinum we use? Because it's a increases less rapidly at a higher temperature when compared to the other material. So for that purpose, we usually go for the platinum. Might be a little costlier, but it's a most efficient one. It has the stability from around 260 degrees Celsius to 1100 degrees Celsius. And industry platinum resistance thermometer is usually shown. Okay, what we discussed about the earlier thermometer bridge is the what we use it for the industrial platinum resistance, and this is the what we use as the bridge here. Usually we go for the Wheatstone bridge. We can show here the bridge what we are using it here. Okay, the bridge here you can see R1, R2, R5, and usually we have R4. But in this one, usually we go for the R1, R2, R5, R3 consist of a Wheatstone bridge. RS is connected to one bridge resistance that is connected to the bridge here. Okay, and that is given to the whatever the external supply we require, because we know that Wheatstone bridge is the passive, so we require a auto source. So whatever this change in the bridge, the balancing or unbalancing condition is determined by this galvanometer, and this galvanometer determines when this bridge is balanced and unbalanced. So when there is a change in the resistance, so that time the bridge get unbalanced. So that's why we are designed. Okay, so as I said, it forms a very important factor, RSC and R4 here. So usually RS is made up of material which have a high temperatures coefficient, and R1, R2, R5 are made up of resistance that are practically constant under normal temperature. Normal temperature is like a room temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius we say. When the sensing element is very near the bridge and under balanced condition, the following relationship holds good. R1 by R2 is equals to RS by R5. So that time R1 by R2 is equals to RS by R5 is like the constant. In normal practice, the sensing element is away from the indicator and the bridge, and it leads have a resistance say R3, R4. So RS is what? The sensing element. R3 and R4 are the LEDs connected to the two terminals. R3 is one end, R4 at one end. So at that time R3 and R4 are actually the factor we need to consider when they are unbalanced condition. So that time R1 by R2 is equals to RS plus LED on the one side resistance R3, another side R4 divided by R5. This is the condition we need to see always when there is an unbalance. When the resistance R changes, the bridge is balance is upset. RS changes there, and the galvanometer shows a deflection, which has to be calibrated to give a suitable temperature. As I said, whatever the change in the temperature, it has to be considered with a reference of a table there. Now we'll discuss about the advantages of the resistance thermometer. There, the measurement what is done is very accurate. Second, the indicators, recorders and controllers can also be operated. So as per the industrial application, we can use it as a indicators also, recorders also, and controllers. Recorders usually we can use it for any of the further application. So what were the temperature changes there? More than one resistance element can be clubbed to the same indicating or the recording instrument. So more than one resistance also can be implemented there. The temperature resistance element can be easily installed and replaced. Yeah, you can keep on resistance or you can do it simple, because normally what we have said, R1, R2, R5 are just a practically the value, the free, and next one is the sensing element. You can use it, you can just remove the bulb or the whatever the LED what we are implementing, and you can use it and put another new element. Easily we can be done. The accuracy of the measuring circuit can be easily checked by substituting a standard resistor for a resisting element. So, if you keep it as a resistive or standard there, resistance as a standard, so that we can the accuracy can be checked easily there. Resistance element can be used to measure differential temperature. So that's it. We can check with the two elements and can find a difference or even for the different conditions there. The resistance thermometer have a wide working range without loss of accuracy and can be used for temperature ranges ranging from minus 200 degrees Celsius to 650 degrees Celsius. They are best suited for the remote sensing and indication. Remote sensing in sense, we can keep it a sensing element and you can have the continuous measurement and we can record it and we can use it for indication on the display center. The response time of the resistive element is 2 to 10 seconds, so it is very low. The error of the resistive element is in the range of plus or minus 0.25 scale percentage of the scale. The size of the resistive element may be about 6 to 12 millimeter in diameter. No necessity of the temperature compensation. So we don't require any kind of an external circuit to compensate the temperature factors or a coefficient thing. Extremely accurate temperature sensing there, as I said earlier. The performance stability over a long period of time. So they are very high stable and the performance is also very good for a long period of time. So what are the limitations of the resistance thermometer? As I said earlier, they are little costlier when we use a platinum material. And also we required an external bridge and also an external source to measure that whatever the unbalanced condition in the bridge to have a value or for a calculation purpose. And it has the possibility of self-heating. Might be having a too much of heating because of the position of where we are keeping the sensing element. If it is little smaller, we have just to sense a minute temperature and you can determine. Else if we keep the touch or where we place this bridge, resistance thermometer bridge, might affect the efficiency. Next, we'll look into the thermistor. It's a brand there, it's a small type. What with the same principle what we have done in the resistance thermometer bridge, the same principle we'll be using in the thermistor. But what is the difference here is that it's a negative temperature coefficient. We'll go into it, don't worry. Here, the thermistor is like a same, the temperature also changes and you have to select the material which are very high temperature sensitive, so that we can use it for useful in the temperature control circuit and then for the temperature measurement can be made properly. Here the name only suggests that the thermally sensitive resistor, hence the name thermistor. They are usually non-metallic resistor, that is a semiconductor material made by sintering mixtures of a metallic oxide such as manganese, nickel, cobalt, copper and uranium. So this all the materials has to be they have provided in the forms of the oxide form and that has to be given and made of the thermistor. So there are different type of thermistors depending on their sizes, so that we will be discussing there. So thermistors have a negative temperature coefficient, that's why we call it as a NTC. What is this negative temperature coefficient? Its resistance decreases as temperature rises, so they are reverse there. You can see in this graph, as the temperature is high, the resistance is very low. As temperature is decreasing, the resistance also, sorry, as the resistance is decreasing here, sorry, I have said in the ulta, So this is what the high resistance, and this is what the temperature. So when resistance is high, temperature is 0. When that resistance is decreased, so that time the temperature is increasing here. You can observe it here. So at a room temperature, usually it is the temperature, we can say it as around 25 degrees Celsius. The resistance might be in the range of 100 ohms to 10 ohms. Usually they are usually used up to the 800 degrees Celsius. So they are most efficient in the between that range. Usually the resistance of the thermistor at any room temperature may decrease by 5 degrees percent or 5% we say for each 1 degree Celsius rise in the temperature. This high sensitivity to the temperature changes makes the thermistor extremely useful for the precision temperature measurements, control and compensation. So it can compensate some of the factors there. So this here we can see into the different types of a thermistor. Different types of a thermistor. So you can see a disc type, a rod type, washer type, bead type. Okay, this is the, and also a bush type which you don't have it in a syllabus. It's a bush. Whatever the external factors has been added, so we can have a spring washer, this fiber bushings, lead washers, and all. So it is a usually bush type. So we need to focus on these four types here. Okay, and thermistors are usually non-linear devices over a temperature range. Although now units with better than 0.2% of linearity over the 0 to 100 degrees Celsius temperature ranges also are made available. The typical sensitivity of the thermistor is approximately 3 millivolts per degree Celsius at a 200 degree Celsius. So this is what we have done at a 200 degree Celsius. So how the typical sensitivity has to be recorded. So at first we'll discuss about the bead type. So you can see it a bit. It's the smallest thermistor are made in the form of a beads. Some are as small as 0.15 millimeter, that is around 0.006 inches in diameter. They will be having a glass coating or a shield in the tip of the solid glass probes. They usually have a glass coating there, and the glass probes usually have a diameter of about 2.5 millimeter and a length which is varies from 6 to 50 millimeter. Usually they are connected via this LEDs there. The probes are used for measuring the temperature of the liquids, so when they are connected to it, and the resistance ranges means it can measure up to 100 mega ohms starting from 300 ohms, so that it has a operating range around 300 ohms to 100 mega ohms. So next one is the disc type, where the greater power dissipations are required. Thermistors may be obtained in the disc, washer or a rod forms. So when you have these three types, it's a for a high greater power dissipations are required. The disc type is about 100 millimeter in diameter. They are either self-supporting or mounted on a small plate, so that we have to be mounted with a disc type here. It is 10 millimeter in diameter, this disc, and usually they are used for the temperature control. These thermistors are made by pressing thermistor material under several tons of pressure in a round die to produce flat pieces. They are 1.25 to 25 millimeter in diameter and 0.25 to 0.75 millimeter thick having a resistance value of 1 ohm to 1 mega ohm. They are sintered and coated with the silver on two flat surfaces. On the two flat surfaces either side, we have the flat surfaces which are been sintered using a silver material. Next one is the washer. They are also similar kind of a disc type, except they are hole is formed in the center in order to make them suitable for mounting on a bolt. So like the nut and bolt what we have is like a nut which can be placed on the bolts and all, or any of the applications. Next one is the rod type. Rod thermistors are extruded through dies to make it a long cylindrical units. You can see it here, the long cylindrical units. They have 1.25, 2.75 and 4.25 millimeter in diameter, the three variant, and which are around 12.5 to 50 millimeter long. Leads are attached to the end of the rods. You can see it here, leads. Their resistance usually varies from 1 to 50 kilo ohms. The advantage of rod thermistors over other configuration is the ability to produce high resistance units with moderately high power handling capability. Thermistors can be connected in series or parallel combination for application required increased power handling capability. So that is the thing. If you are connected in series, they add up. If they are connected in parallel, they get less. Okay. High resistance units finds application in measurement that employ low lead wires for cables. So they also can be used for high resistance unit. You can find the low lead wires there with the combination that either in parallel, either in series there. These are the different types of the thermistor. Usually there we are discussing only the 4 different types there. So now I have to discuss about the application of the thermistor. Thermistors are usually chemically stable and can be used even in the nuclear environments. They are used in limiting and regulation circuit as time delays for integrating of power pulses as a memory unit, so that you can use it can sense the heat depending on the of how much the temperature range is, and it can use it as a time delays also. Thermistor is in one arm Wheatstone bridge provides the precise temperature information mainly used in the temperature control purpose, so that we can sense the thing. If anything more heat is there, uncontrolled heat or uncontrolled temperature is there, so that time you can take a measurement of this and you can use it for safety purposes. Okay, these are the applications there. Now we'll look after the advantages. As they are very small size and they are very low cost as they are small, right? They are fast response over a narrow temperature range. They have very high good sensitivity in the NTC region, as they are negative temperature coefficient region we say. Cold junction compensation not required due to the dependence of resistance on an absolute temperature. So as they designed it for those absolute temperatures, so we don't need required on the cold junction compensation there, and that's the other than temperature at the junctions which has to be measured. For example, when you connect through a LEDs also. Contact and lead resistance problems are not encountered due to the large resistance, that the RTH resistance, the Thevenin's resistance. So that's the losses and the anything is not can be controlled there. Okay. Next, the limitation of the thermistors. They are usually the non-linearity, but we try to achieve the linearity, but there are some of the things we cannot achieve. So hence the thing, it's the majority of the time it's a non-linearity in the resistance versus the temperature characteristics. You can see it in the earlier graph where it was a curve type, not a linear type. Unsuitable for the wide temperature range. So when we use a mixture of some materials, so that time what will happen, they are designed for certain range, after that it cannot work. So we have different material have different temperature sensitivity. So that time that's the loss what we need to be consider. If we done an alloy also, so some metals they support, some metals they don't support. So that's the problem what we have facing with this thing. So when we go for a wide temperature range, we have to think twice implementing this thermistors. Very low excitation current to avoid self-heating. So usually some of the cases we require the currents. The excitation currents is what we measure through the galvanometer in the bridges and all if we are using. So that time what will happen due to the high heating, so that time the self heating, so that time we don't get a proper current there. Need of a shielding power lines, filters, etc. due to high resistance. So we require a high shielding power lines in order to support it. Okay, so that it doesn't have any kind of thing, or sometimes the noises, other factors also might get added into it and get heated up, and that time we don't get a proper values there. So that time we require a needing a power shield for that one, so that we cannot have a losses and all. Okay, these are the references. HS Kelsey for this part also I have referred. The other two are the other references. Thank you.